I'll be recording so our fans on our podcast will get the pre-episode, the pre-context. So
maybe not everything that happens right now needs to be on there. We'll see. How long will it?
All right, so now we're having technical difficulties. It's waiting for the live stream to come through to the...
This is why we begin nice and early.
Yep. What time is it? Yep. Oh, yes. I can share it now.
Just give me one moment. I'm just
No worries. No worries.
Okay. All right, and there we go.
Live?
Not yet. I'm
Count
just
it down.
copy and pasting. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6.
It says the meeting is now live on Facebook. I guess you count it down too.
This is some fancy shit. I like it.
2, 1.
Intro.
We are live on Facebook. Okay, we are live on Facebook. Welcome to the PowerOurPlanet Podcast. Thank you, Goddess Kimmi, for taking time out of your day to grace us with your presence. I'm going to dive right in. So I want to know really just a snapshot, give our audience a snapshot of where you're coming from. I feel like you're like a rocket that's being propelled, and it's like you came and then it's like you busted through the wall with your your Jet Li punch, the Jet Li finger punch, and you come through and then your energy just shines and it presents and it's looked like, oh wow, that space was always there for her. And it's like she completely embodied that. So I would like to hear how that originated.
Where it started? I mean, it's been going on for a while, you know. I'm a very creative sort of person. Ever since I was a child, whatever I could get my hands on, be it secondhand clothes, my mom's hand-me-downs, or even swapping, borrowing, sometimes borrowing and never returning from a lot of my good friends. I'd always be very expressive with clothing, because clothing is something that you can physically display and show off to the world and send such a powerful message, you know? It's one of the first things that people see and perceive about you. And if you are wearing something that makes you feel powerful, that makes you feel vibrant, that reflects how you are inside, then that just gives you so much energy and so much more presence. It gives you power to amplify that presence. And I'm all about big energy being felt.
I can feel that. Not to like go for puns, but I feel that. So thank you for that. Go. I see you with the questions there. I'll hold on.
No, I thought you had a couple questions you were going to start off with initially, but so Richard wants to know first off, when is your birthday and what is your Zodiac sign?
Guess fast.
Oh, what is your? His first. Oh, guess, Richard. What do you think?
So, in my guess, I'm gonna say you're Leo.
Why?
Because I'm a Leo, and from you, I just feel like a blazing dragon. Like you're like firing, but you have a lion's head. And then, yeah, maybe you're reincarnated ancient Empress, right? Yes, ancient Empress. That's it.
Well, you know, Leos don't have all the reign on the big energy and the Empress and the ruling class. I'm an Aquarius.
You're an Aquarius.
I'm an Aquarius.
That's number one.
I agree.
Oh, you're the strongest
one. As an Aquarian, that's the sort of energy vibe I'm going off. So something a little strange, a little different, but still very flexible and it goes with the flow.
Good call, Richard. I would say Richard, he said Leo, which that's, I think that was biased because he's a Leo. But however, Aquarius is the number one sign. It's like the strongest one. I found out that they're the strongest one with the most power, the most potential. Sometimes they might be in a situation where it's difficult to balance it because it's so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find yourself like what do you use to balance yourself out?
Honestly, sometimes I feel I have so many ideas. I don't want to run all around the place and try to do as many things as possible. And I end up creating this mountain of stress on my head and on my shoulders. But there is no reason to work myself up in that way, because what is meant for me will come. And what I need to do, I need to sit back, really think out, plan how I'm going to go forward. And also just talking to people, especially those closest with me, getting their advice, their counsel, or sometimes just writing in my diary. That keeps me grounded, keeps me focused.
Mm-hmm. And so when it comes to your designs, does that do you often have to use something like that, like a similar method to bring them down to a certain type? Because it's kind of so many different ways you can go with your designs. I imagine that you have so many ideas, and so maybe do you have how do you set up your schedule, your calendar for what you're going to release now and later?
Honestly, it just comes as it comes. It sounds like it should be a more thought out process. I've tried that. I definitely have tried doing it the traditional way, but I find what works best for me is just when an idea comes, to hold on to it, sketch it out, hand it over to my tailors, talk to them, see what happens, and then keep that constant feedback going. My philosophy when it comes to designing is to just make it happen and then figure it out afterwards. Kind of like a rough diamond. You have to just constantly polish it. There's no point just thinking about, okay, how am I going to make it perfect? It's just better to put your idea out there and then refine it as you go.
Wow. That's a very thorough philosophy.
It could apply for so many different things in life, you know?
Is that how you think? So
110%.
110%.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm all about failing. I'm all about doing something when you're not ready and getting ready as you're doing it.
Mm-hmm. So me and Richard been digesting quite a bit of your content recently. We watched your last interview with J.K. Hobson, and for that interview, did you prepare many of your questions beforehand, or was that?
So that was actually my second interview. The first interview, it was with Brendan Lagman, and he was absolutely amazing. Because it was my first interview, I was so nervous. So I did so much research. I prepared so many questions. I had like 2 pages of notes, you know? But when it came to the actual interview itself, I felt like because I put so much care and attention into it and I wanted to get it right, I felt a lot of my energy and also a lot of my spontaneity and that natural flow between us was interrupted. That's how I felt with being overly prepared. And so the second time I was like, okay, let's try a different approach, you know, because my first time was my first time. I wasn't expecting it to be amazing. I knew like you have to get your first time out of the way and then just keep improving from there. And so my second time I thought to myself, let's not prepare anything. And that went so much better. And lesson learned, I'm not preparing anything for any interview ever again.
So Richard, you have another prepared question for Kimmi?
So I could tell that in the first interview I felt like you moved a lot less in a way, is where the second one you were very expressive, and it's like there was that, how you were here now is how you were there in the second interview. You still had it in the first interview, but I feel like maybe he pulled it out of you in certain places as you expressed it towards him, whereas this one you were expressing it to him and then pulling it out of him. So,
yeah.
I guess all in all the same transaction, but on different stages.
Mm-hmm.
So I was scrolling through your social media, just reading different things, checking out your designs, and I noticed you just reached your 2-year anniversary recently. I want to say congratulations. And I read about it, and I was like, that is amazing. What's your take on the modern relationship? How do you maintain such a strong, loving relationship with someone that seems to be like an actual friend, you an integral friend, not just a person that you're in a relationship with? I feel like a lot of people seek that, but don't really ever are able to establish it in their life. So I would really like to hear your input on it. I think it'd be profound for our listeners.
My view on relationships has changed a lot over the past few years. Disclaimer, big disclaimer, I'm only 23, but when I was younger, when I was a teenager, I had this idea of what romance was and what a relationship was. I thought it was something that was always exciting, turbulent, full of drama, really big, crushing emotions, pretty much your basic standard rom-com. That's what I thought a relationship should be like. And when you're chasing that sort of those highs and those lows, it's hard to find stability within yourself and within the relationship. It's only much later on, after going through such big and dizzying storms, that I've come to value going back to a place and a person where I feel grounded, where I feel safe, where I feel like I'm at home. And most days it's just chilling, being like a 50-year-old grandma, watching Netflix, eating my pizza, just little moments like that. That's what life is made of, you know, little moments. And if you can't appreciate the little moments, it's difficult to fully savor the bigger ones.
True. Did you ever have to deal with any difficult relationships in the past?
In the past, not so much, because my first relationship, it was pretty cute. Like, it's something that I'm really happy to have gone through and really happy to be able to look back on. We met when I was 16, going on 17. He was my pen pal. He was living in France. And at the time I was obsessed with French culture and learning the language. And so we went through like 2 years being together and corresponding and just constantly talking. But the end of it was quite abrupt, and it was something that I wasn't expecting, because in my mind, a relationship, when it ends, it needs to be a dramatic event. It needs to be something, earth shaking, you know? But when it actually happened, I had this internal debate with myself that lasted not even 1 minute. I was expecting it to take more time and energy out of me. But what I realized was that if the person is not willing to fight for you and to fight to be with you and to really put in the energy and the effort, then it's just not worth your time. So when I exited that relationship,
I had this. Did you maintain a friendship afterwards?
Oh, I don't believe in that. Some people they can do it, but if someone who has been such a big part of my life in such an intimate way and wants to withdraw, then that's fine. I will let them go. And I don't think there is a reason to keep them in my life, because we both have so many things to do. We have our own paths to go on, and why hold each other back?
Yeah. Exactly.
It sounds like less of a pushing them out of your way, more of a, hey, let's both walk forward at our own pace.
Yeah.
Like some friendships naturally end.
They do, for sure. And honestly, friendships are, depending on the friendship, they can be much harder to end than relationships. Recently, a few months ago, one of my best friends, one of my childhood friends, we'd known each other from 9 till now. She came over to visit me in Vietnam, but these past few years, our relationship's been quite tumultuous, quite turbulent. And when she came out here in March, that was the when I realized that we had outgrown each other. Even if we didn't want to admit it, it was staring at us right in the face. And we just had such a difficult time letting go. For a romantic relationship, someone you've been with a year, 2 years, 3 years, it's honestly so much more difficult to let go of a friend who's been with you through thick and thin over the course of nearly a decade, over a decade, than it is with a romantic partner. Because let's be realistic here. Romantic partners, most of the time, we know they're not going to last. But friendships, we expect more return on our investment.
So it occurred right after I said what I said, and I said friendships naturally end. It occurred to me then, right after that, as you were speaking about your experience, that friendships and relationships seem to be more like naturally occurring phenomenons given to us by life to help mature us to a certain point. So would you say that you at the end of most of your relationship, you learned there was something that you left that you were able to take forward with you going on to your next experience in life that really helped you?
Not just one thing, but many things, many things. You know, you learn so much from the people who spend time with you. And it's a symbiotic relationship. You give some, you take some, they give you some, you take some, and together you learn. It's one of the best ways to know who you are and know what you're like is through relationships, whether they be friendships or intimate relationships.
Sure. So, this is kind of a segue if we're talking about relationships in a way, but I feel like relationships and the lessons that you pick up from relationships, that kind of ties into this next question. So, do you feel like you have a mission in life? I know you referred to your clothing, your love with clothing started from young, so it kind of came up with you, and then you started to put more energy towards it. You've always had listening to your interview on the Melanated Files, you always have had you liked and you enjoyed going to thrift stores and finding cool things. And so do you feel like that you have like a guiding thing, a mission that drives your life forward, or kind of the things it came together and you would say, I was blessed to have this like line that was, I would say, this lineage that I was able to connect in this present time and to really align me at a place where I really feel fulfilled in my daily activities?
No. The only guiding principle that I've had these past few years is a quote. I can't remember who the author was, but the quote goes, "Find what you love and let it kill you." Mm-hmm. That's my life's mission, to follow each and every little whim, desire, to fill my life with colorful things, bright things, all the things that are sweet and delicious, and soak it up. Enjoy it.
Let it kill you.
Yeah. So when I was in Turkey, there was a bar that I used to go to all the time. In fact, I told you about this bar, Stanford. That's the bar. That's the only bar that I would go to all the time in Turkey. It was right down the street, and they had that on the wall above, like, find what you like and let it kill you. They had that. All right. As soon as you said that, I was like, oh, what a connection.
Not alcohol though.
No, they didn't need alcohol.
I think that alcohol.
No, a lot of bars have inspirational stuff like that in there, and they don't really ever applying it to alcohol. They're just kind of, maybe in a way, that's their way of like, hey, we know that when you're inebriated, you can accept subliminal messaging a little bit more. And why not give good subliminal messaging, like how much you want and let it kill you?
I imagine that I would die on stage playing saxophone, consumed in fire.
What a beautiful death.
Then that's the only way I imagine music could ever possibly kill me. Have you ever had any musical pursuits, Kimmi?
Besides from the time when I was 12 years old and forced to take up an instrument for a year, no.
Which one did you pick?
Trombone.
Trombone. How'd you feel about that?
Great, because it was so big, so bulky. It commanded attention, you know? I was like this little girl with a big musical instrument, especially in public transport. If I wanted a little bit of wiggle room, I just move around with my big ass trombone case. Yeah, that was fun. But no, I haven't been musically inclined. If anything, linguistically inclined, yes, but not musically.
Oh, so how many languages do you speak?
Vietnamese, French, Spanish, a little bit of Italian, and of course, English.
And do you have your own language?
What do you mean my own language?
So I have a lot of close friends, and the longer we hang out with one another, if we're on the same wavelength, eventually we have a common language that maybe no one else can understand.
I wouldn't say my own language, but I do like to mix different languages together. So Vietnamese and English, Finglish for sure. And the people who I spend the most time with, they understand Vietnamese, they understand English. So we just mix it together all the time, and it just adds so much flavor to our conversations. Yeah, that's always super fun. When I was living in France, we used to speak in English and French. We'd mix those two together all the time.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds fun. I haven't been able to do that so much. My Vietnamese is struggling. I'm getting there though. Today I went out, and some people were having a conversation with me, but they weren't like in my face talking to me. And that subtle knowledge of, oh yeah, I know you're talking to me, and I can answer that question. It felt good. It was probably the first time it happened like that.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah. Have you ever been to a country where you didn't know the language at all before you arrived?
Always. It's happened so many times. It's half of the fun of traveling. When you have no idea where you're at, what you're doing, how you're going to get to where you need to get to, and being embraced by the people at your destination. And they're the ones who just take you into their arms, show you around. You don't even need to worry. It's pretty much like meeting or being reunited with family that you never even knew you had. Or alternatively, being whisked away by a lover you were destined to meet.
Where did you attend university?
So I split my university studies between Monash in Australia and Jean Moulin in France, in Lyon.
And what was your major?
French. Honestly, the only reason I went to study at university is because a university degree seems so necessary to opening certain doors that I needed at the time. But now the main reason for me to go to university was just to enrich my own personal knowledge, you know, because at the university that I signed up to go to, they had, I think it was 5 libraries. I'm a big book nerd. I've been a book nerd since as early as I can remember, just constantly reading wherever I'd go. Whenever I'd go somewhere, I'd always have a book with me. If I was walking down the street, I'd have a book with me. If I was going to the grocery store, I'd have a book with me. Sitting on the toilet, like literally everywhere I'd be reading. So going to university was just a natural extension of my quest for knowledge.
Can you drop a few key or iconic titles?
Ooh, okay. Because of the sheer amount of books that I read, there's only a few that really stick out in my memory. If you talk to people who know me, they'll be like, yeah, she reads so much. Like if the book is person who is allowed to use her and tell her story. There's one night after a performance, everyone goes back home, and the puppet master, who's the only one who's allowed to handle this doll, takes her back to the theater. He unclothes her, and then he sees there's a gleam in her eye. And so he thinks to himself, she's just so beautiful. And so he decides to put on all of her finery, don her wigs, just for a little performance before he goes to bed at night. And as soon as he does that, he sees again just how beautiful she was, at least how he imagined in his head. And so he puts her down back into a little puppet box. And like every night for the past few years that he's been looking after her, he gives her a kiss. This time, some spark happens. When he kisses her, she sucks the air out of him, the life out of him, the blood out of him. And she becomes the woman that he's been telling the story of. He, like a shell, falls away, dead, lifeless. And she, with renewed energy and vigor, becomes human. And we don't know if she's human again, or if this is the first time that she's human. But just the way that this idea has been put into the story is just absolutely incredible. But just the writing, it doesn't do it justice.
Doesn't do it justice.
No.
Wow. You did that story justice just now. I I felt that. I went on the whole emotional arc. Wow. So I was talking to Richard last night about vampires.
Mm-hmm.
Now I have a few friends I used to spend a lot of time with. They are girls. They are admitted vampires. Now, when they say they're vampires, more or less, there's this idea of the fuckboy. You know, fuckboy?
Who doesn't? We all know 1 or 10.
So they're like fuckboy hunters. They're like they're like the fuckboy slayers. They're like Buffy the fuckboy slayer. And they go out and they target him. Oh, he's a fuckboy. They target him and they suck him dry.
That sounds fantastic.
Dry. Yes. Now when
that
they
sounds
meet
like
me,
justice.
It is kind of like it is like a weird dark justice. Now when they meet me, and we became friends because I'm not a fuckboy, and they know that, and so they more or less show me what they do. They show me how they operate. They talk to me about how they think, and they show me how they work their magic. I guess in order for me to learn about it, so I can become impervious to that magic. Like in this dream, in this story you talked about, that story is, to me, it's an analogy, it's a metaphor about how this guy has this beautiful woman that he can go around and talk about, but more or less he keeps her boxed in into this small reality in which he's in complete control.
Yeah.
And then at one point when he finally sees the glint in her eye, notices that there's something special about this one. That's when, but you were just abusing that the whole time. You didn't see it from the beginning. And so now she sucks the life out of him, and there he goes. He falls lifeless and dead, and she comes alive to be the woman that he had been talking about this whole time, this ideal.
Making up for lost time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Do you often, when you read a book like that, do you sympathize with a particular one character, or do you read as the objective overview of the story, the observer?
Definitely as the observer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm always one to cheer for justice in my stories, and always want to feel deeply what happens to the characters. Whether it be a book, whether it be a movie, I'm honestly the first person to cry.
So sometimes I sympathize with a character. It was even this one Netflix show that I was watching. I fell in love with the characters. It's about kids. I fell in love with especially the main character. He was my guy. And he goes to a party and they shot him. And when they shot him, it took me out for like 10 seconds. Yeah. And I came back and my ex-girlfriend I was with at the time, she was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, yeah. I was very emotionally invested when they shot him. it got me. It like triggered a response. I couldn't. I had to go through that with him. Next episode, he was okay. He like, it was like a year later. He had healed and everything. But it was like, wow, I didn't know I was so invested in that. Now I try to watch more as a observer that's sympathetic instead of putting myself in the body of a character like that.
When you put yourself in the character's shoes, you feel the story so much more deeply.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that's one of the most meaningful ways to experience storytelling, whether it be through film or through written word.
But when you watch as an observer, you learn the most. You able to take something from everybody instead of seeing this one bad character, or I hate him because he's the character who's against my favorite character. You learn their point of view as well.
That's true. That's true. You got to be able to sympathize with the range of characters and not just the one that you're cheering for.
Yeah. Richard, you missed that story.
No, I didn't. I feel like where I came in on, I came to the same conclusion as you and analogized. I was like, oh, that's what that is. And I was like, and I feel like the part that I came in on, Kimmy, was like, that's like the bite. What do they call that when they like have the bite-sized parts? Like, the hook, yeah, that was the hook of it. It's like, oh, he puts this girl away, and then it's like, she sucks the life out of him. It's like, oh, okay, that is. I guess we see a lot. We see a lot of that happening. That's actually a tangent. I have a question about since I feel like since I wasn't in on the story, I can't completely continue on the story part because I missed like almost all of it. But I know in one of your interview you were mentioning the pollution in Vietnam, and so what I'm interested in is you being a slow fashion, eco-conscious, like fashion label. How do you see in the future, how do you see yourself using your presence and influence to impact more societal change or like daily change towards pollution? Because it is a real thing that's like kind of continuing a lot, and a lot of people kind of just say, oh yeah, we know that. It's like something they know. But it's not like, it's like, yeah, we just know that like it's something yes we're all supposed to know and just be okay with, like it's right here, rather like it's something that maybe there's these things they call I'm gonna call them core habits for lack of the word that they talk about them as. But like once you start to change, and they say working out's one of them, and then it starts domino affecting through your life and changing a bunch of other habits. So I feel definitely as companies or community organizers in a way, we can organize different people from different communities, and we create one type of community based off of what those people do. And then we also create those communities based off of the people that support you and believe in your vision. And so in every type of way, we're always categorizing a new different type of communities. And so all these communities, in a sense, are created that are part of the same big community, and they both share spaces in different other communities that are traditionally possibly unreached. And so my question is the core of is, do you have in your future, do you see yourself really using your platform to start to steer like
Sub-Zero?
Oh, Sub-Zero? No. Kiwi's still there.
Yeah, you may have to repeat the question. You froze for a second.
Kiwi,
Yeah, you'll have to say that again.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah, because you kind of froze in the middle of the question.
Yeah, just at the question part, you froze.
Oh, okay. So do in the future using your platform to, I guess not so much start the conversation on air pollution, but really provide like how people can moving forward actionably from as far as setting an example for other companies that are able to invest in ideas like that to, for example, Power Our Planet. Power Our Planet started, Stanford Richard, the original idea of Power Planet was he had an invention for a machine that would change energy from working out into electricity. and converters that would like multiply that so people can work out and supply the power for their community. I think just like that, companies like that are more operating on the concepts behind them are, it's the same as capitalism, but it's what they measure as a profit is measured over longer periods of time. And what the beauty I think nowadays about really good startups, your projects like your own, the fashion label, is you're able to intertwine what people used to like kind of like, oh, this purely lust for drive for money to like take over things, into like this more conscious aspect to harmonize with society and nature, working towards harmonizing society with nature. And so I would love to hear what you have to say about your future progression towards that. Is that like a mission within your company as you start to like put more effort and resources towards that? Because you do have some of that in the front end basic, but it's more towards just the fashion.
I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing now, because this is something that works for me and it's something that I believe in. Because big companies, I find it very unlikely that they will slow down their means of production, because how they make their profits is through producing huge amounts of stuff, overpricing their items, and drastically underpaying the people who are making them. And the only way that this is possible is with consumers turning a blind eye, But if it was profitable for companies to do things alternatively, then of course they would change. So I think they also need to be aware of where their weaknesses are and adapt accordingly. For example, in the US, I think it's around about 40 to 50% of clothes are returned back to stores and online platforms because of issues with the fit. One of the problems is that it's because they offer free returns. And so what people will do is they'll buy one item in 3 different sizes, and then they'll keep one and return the other 2. So there's also that idea of, I can just buy it, try it on at home, and then send it back as well. It's this whole idea of consumer culture that needs to change. And how I'm doing things is by doing a lot of made to measure stuff. And when you make things to measure, it means that you have a quite a limited amount of physical stock. And when you make something, it's just for that customer. So in my business model, things have been going quite well, because it's in over 1 year of business, I've only had 2 customers have issues with the size or with the fit. And even then, what you can do is take it to a local tailor, and then they can just give it a quick alteration. And with one of my customers, one of the sleeves were too small, so he had quite big arms. And I told him, please go to the tailors, see what they can do, and I will refund you however much it was. And it only ended up costing $5, but because it was inconvenient for him to go there to get the shirt fix and also to come back, pick it up, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, I did like compensate him for the time that it took for that too. So when you have a big company, it's hard to offer that same level of service and that same level of customer care. If you do things on the small scale where you actually talk with the customers, you actually know who your customers are and you have that relationship with them, I feel the clothes are so much more meaningful and the service that you're providing is so much more valuable.
I agree with you.
Yeah, definitely. I really enjoyed wearing your go ahead, Richard.
No, you can.
No, I was just I saw the jacket flash in the music video behind me, and I was like, yeah, like I really feel like that jacket was made for me. I wore it once here in Hanoi already, and everybody was like, oh wow, very nice, very nice.
Of course, it looks amazing.
It's what
you got, Richard?
It's a really dope jacket. I feel your clothing line is
Oh, I don't know. He froze again. Sub-Zero. That's what we say when
No.
somebody. You remember if you ever played Mortal Kombat?
No, I
No,
haven't.
that's a
Why?
character who freezes you, like, and you stand there. So whenever someone freezes, we say Sub-Zero.
Mm.
Uh, so uh, so you already have your headquarters here in Saigon,
Mm-hmm.
and do you often go around other parts of Vietnam and source materials or designs or inspiration?
I do. I do. Recently, at the start of the year, I was in Sapa, and I got quite a few amazing materials there from a few of the different ethnic peoples. The only problem with sourcing materials is that if you don't have a constant supply, it's hard to do similar designs. So it's usually what happens is it's very limited quantity, and often I just make it for myself. A lot of the items that I make, they don't end up on the store. They'll just be for my personal collection.
Oh, so you probably have a large private stock, right?
You can say that.
Wow. Like, so there's a vault being developed. One day you'll open the vault and wow, this would be the Dynasty the Label vault.
See how my designs have changed over the years. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
My own little private museum.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Richard is into he's trying to get into recycled fashion. So he wants to acquire old vintage pieces and add new designs or concepts to them. Richard, what you can go further about that, right? And
so I think it's after listening to you and you talking about the made fit to measure, I kind of think I may have to shift on it, but I feel my concept is that I'm all about there's so many ways to create different types of economies. And so I used to really be interested in and studying about it. And so a lot of my ideas, when they come together, they end up somehow, once I filter them out, they become like a type of a community idea. And so if for recycling, use recycled clothing and then editioning it, I feel like that's a way to create an item. And then it's gains, let's say on its journey, on its life cycle, it has an indefinite life cycle and it's always gaining more and more energy in a sense. Someone gets this item and they change it up and they make it to this vision that they see. And we're called Nomad Melody. So I can see kind of like this old bomber jacket from the war days. And they take this and they transform it into this kind of like peaceful and loving, graceful thing, but it still has the ruggedness of existing in a place far removed from the piece of back then, but the piece is within you, and it's kind of this is your label, and then that person may move on from that life, but that thing, it's treasured, and so there's a community and they're able to sell that or maybe make a donation thing for it and raise lots of money for like quality things that have like this great appeal, and then people can add to it. And there's so many communities that are created around things. I feel it has a potential to be a complete cult community around it, as because the objects will continue. I can see like 100 years from now, they're like, yo, is that like and it'll be like, this is the first person will make the name of it, and then each new person will like make the da-da-da, and then this is the new style design. And so I can see like 10 users in, there's like this whole new thing. And it's really imaginistic and like fairy tale, kind of like some kind of like, I think it's possible though. Like what people spend, if the reason I think it's possible is because it's combines and it's sustainable and it encourages a type of community sharing and community storytelling that I don't think it's really seen. In fact, I feel like we see it so much more in we see it in games. People wonder why games are so successful. We see it so much in games because they have like this, they genuinely care about like this thing and the people that they spend their family with. So a lot of them online multiplayer games, the clans and stuff, that they go on these raids. If a new raid comes out, they'll go and let's say they'll take 100 people and they'll go through millions of different iterations of every aspect of that quest so that they can do it as efficiently as possible. And I feel like it only happens when there's a lot of people working in cross communication, not like traditional management. So it's more of a community type thing where everyone's actually, you have to, it's like what you said, the individual has to have that interest there for like, all right, I'm not doing this, I'm not buying 3 items, I would rather take this and invest this energy here. I don't actually need that many clothes. So there's a lot of it, but it's a fairy tale that's out there. So when life sees fit,
the change starts with us.
Say again, I'm sorry.
The change starts with us.
The change starts with us. Yes.
How do you feel about so me and Richard initially invited you to join us on the podcast because we read a post and watched a short video about how women empowerment and how it had a beneficial effect on the environment as a whole, like the mental environment, the physical environment, the emotional environment, spiritual environment. How do you feel like that? Do you feel like that is a true sentiment? And well, I know you probably do, but in what way could you express that sentiment to us?
In one sentence, we need 1,000-year matriarchy.
We need swag. I can see that.
I think we're doing many amazing, incredible things for the community, not just on a small level, but also on a bigger level. So in terms of nation building, in terms of uplifting different parts of society and bringing people together. Yeah. I think now is definitely the time for women to step up, be leaders, be seen, be heard, have their impact felt.
Yeah. I really enjoy seeing the posts you make. I feel like a lot of the posts you make are, maybe most of it is probably directed towards more or less women empowerment. It seems as such. You make a lot of posts that are like to enlighten women certain things that they might encounter, like with relationships or business. And I like seeing that, and I feel like I learn a lot from that. Maybe as much as maybe as much as a guy could possibly learn about that from just seeing your post about it and having my own thoughts. Some things that I learned about, like when you mentioned about 1,000-year matriarchy, and me and Richard were talking earlier about the true history of American slavery. It was because of your interview with JK. We had a friend who told us a story of that, but his great grandmother told him about how slavery really came about, like how it really started. And really the main thing was that they took captives of women and children mostly. And then when you think about it like that, wow, it wasn't like they went and took all these men and soldiers and big strong men and came and made them work. They took women and children, and these women had such a strong willpower that they made it all the way across the ocean to America and gave birth to that underclass nation and kept it together and inspired and kept us going. And then you have Harriet Tubman later came and was the woman who led a lot of people to freedom, had to kill a lot of people because they had a slave mentality. And now here we are today in this present day world because they stuck through that. I feel like that was the underground matriarchy of which you speak. Maybe it wasn't 1,000 years, maybe only about 450. But I do feel like a 1,000-year matriarchy would have
it's well overdue.
It's well overdue. I can see that. How would that go about? Do you think it would have the similar political system as we have now, or could you paint a picture of that world for me? Like as far as how it would look like. Okay, so would there be a president? of countries, would there be United Nations, or would everything kind of go back down to the family structure and really just a lot of close-knit, connected families living closely to each other and people organizing to do things that need to be done in their world around them?
I think that would be a good start. So we could start at the family level, because usually what happens in the family level is that the woman, she makes a lot of the decisions, but it goes on behind the scenes. So already women are doing so much work, so much unrecognized work, so much unpaid labor. For example, if you have a woman in the home, she's already looking after the children. Oh my God, that's just a lot of work. Even if there aren't any children, like you're looking after your partner, you are helping them to build their careers. A lot of women, they are sacrificing their time, their lives to help their families grow, to help their partners grow. And often it's not just the nuclear family, it goes beyond that as well. If you have, for example, cousins, grandparents, aunts, uncles who are in need of help, then you can be that point of support for them. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's just so much labor that goes on, whether it be personal, whether it be emotional, whether it be intellectual, that just is unrecognized. So if we start recognizing that, if we start paying women what they are worth, what their time is worth, then I feel that would change a lot of things. Mm-hmm. Liberation starts in many places, but one of the places to make it felt the strongest is in the purse strings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I completely, it's funny. So me and Stanford have this thing, and he's always telling me that I don't have, sometimes I don't think of doing things right now. And then I'll normally think of something kind of in the future. And I sympathize. You say sympathize is maybe the proper word to use. But I understand. I don't think understand is, but from where I'm at, I have a knowledge that I have learned that's been shared with me. And so I believe it's something that's long overdue. And then from the position of how to go specifically about that, for me, it always feels that asking the current ruler to pay you more, pay anyone more, is not going to happen. Or it'll happen in some faction, but that won't be the end all. And so I actually truly believe that what you're doing right now, I just realized it's like your essence, and it's like how you're doing it, that is your message. I can see that we've never really go backwards. We're always coming forward and we're spiraling up. And so there's maybe many concepts from back then that are pulled forward and they're reinvigorated in new formats. Unless you were studied and you understood the lineage of it, it would be very beneficial to you, but you won't specifically see that was back then, which maybe is an important aspect of which maybe is an important aspect of learning, because if you don't understand where things came from, then you may not be able to make really good educated decisions about going forward. But I feel that you just doing how you're doing, living your life, that is an example. Empowering more women to do exactly that is going to have a more profound impact than asking people to lower the minimum wage for women. Because if women are making great companies, doing things that are changing the world, if women are literally solving the problems to change the world and making money from solving these problems, they're going to be employing more women. They're going to be setting a new standard. And the men that aren't hard-headed enough, they're going to know, yo, we have to step up our game. It's not even a competition. Let's step up the game. And so on all parts of it, everyone's going to be forced to evolve at a certain aspect. And so it kind of I feel like it happens naturally in an aspect. Not to say that everyone should stop what they're doing. No, never. I would say I don't demonize people for that I hope that they have like an integral reason that they really feel like they're out there. They're not out there just because someone told them to be out there. I hope that they're out there for something like that they truly believe in, and that they're willing to put everything on the line for that. And also, you can't demean people for how they go about something that they believe in. And actually, before I feel like me and Sarah talked about this a little bit before. You sometimes you don't know that maybe this isn't the most efficient way to go about that, and that's something you just don't know. We have known unknowns and unknown unknowns. So
Definitely. I'm gonna have to head out soon. Do you have any last questions?
Yeah, I would say the last question I have for you is what is a short question in one sentence. What does money symbolize in that equation that you put forth? Money is symbolic most times, right?
Mm.
So what does it symbolize then? Does it symbolize power and respect?
Energy.
Energy. So we need to give more energy.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Intangibly.
Tangibly.
Like, tangibly.
Because when you exchange money, that's an affirmation of the value that you see in their work.
Mm-hmm.
And to go even further than that, that's a reflection of the value you see in them.
Mm-hmm.
So when we can heap or like be generous with what we have, then whatever we give will come back to us in abundance.
Yeah, I always believe that.
Mm. When you give more, when you give freely, it opens your heart, your mind in certain ways, and also it opens the person receiving it too.
Yeah, I believe that. I think I feel like archetypally you have a special configuration that it's good for that to spread. I feel like you are somebody who could inspire a lot of people. I'm pretty sure that there are many others like you, and their voice needs to be heard so that they can inspire a certain particular type of change that we need in the world. And that's why we felt it was important to bring you on today. And we thank you so much for gracing us with your time and your thoughts and your energy. And yeah, I hope this type of message is being spread between us will contribute to the tangible good of posterity.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming, Goddess Kimmi. It was wonderful talking with you today.
Stay blessed.
Stay blessed.
We'll see y'all around soon.
Yeah.
Right.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Thanks, guys, for checking out Power Our Planet Podcast. This episode with Goddess Kimmi. Check out all of our socials at Nomad Melody on Instagram. We got @PowerOurPlanet_ on Twitter. We got Stanford Reed is me at Stanford is me on Instagram and Twitter. We got NM_Rospel ROSPEL at Instagram. And in the show link bio, we will give all of Goddess Kimmi's social links. Thank you guys for checking out. Do you have any last words, Stanford? You want to rock out and freestyle? Yo, let's freestyle. Let's drop a freestyle. Let the last words is a freestyle.
All right. Yeah, sure.
All right.
Go ahead. Go ahead, freestyle. What you got?
Yeah. We got the vibes. We hope to make a brighter light. This feel like a church program, but baby,
1,000 years of matriarchy, time to end the patriarchy, take it to another level. Got a shovel, link it to the devil. You got a sickle from the Grim Reaper. He was the angel of death. I'm sitting here on the right or the left, not really sure how it looks on your screen. I can be more clean, but it's kind of dirty. There's a dog in here, had to throw a pillow at him earlier. didn't mean to hurt him. He ain't hurt by that. He understand. He was making noise. His feet was treading on the ground. I didn't have a choice.
Alright, hey, you know what, Melody? Waffle Records coming to you soon, yo. We gonna have music. Bless up, thank y'all. Man. Original Signal, Spotify. Bless.
All right, man. End it. End it.